Ah, I love the internet. Here's the thing. Over the last few days, I have gotten a lot of interesting commentary about the practice of me going out into Florida's environment and capturing non-native and invasive species and then selling them. The reason in particular I want to make this video is not necessarily as like a defense, because I don't really care. I know that what I'm doing is fine on all sorts of levels, but really to talk about the inconsistencies in the animal keeping world. Okay, and let me start off by saying this. Just because I don't agree with somebody's particular take on something doesn't mean I think they're an evil person. Okay, but apparently a lot of people don't agree with me, think I'm evil or something along those lines. They think I'm a terrible person, which is kind of funny to me. I'll give you an example. This is just something I found in my regular real life every day. So I had about 50 chameleons at one point, and I had to go up to Tennessee, and I brought them with me. And as I was there, I stopped by a pet store, and I was asking them if they wanted to buy them. They're the wild caught, whatever. Just, maybe they don't get chameleons up there that often, whatever the case is. I didn't think that much about it. It's completely legal. I have my class 3 license here in Florida, which means that as long as it's not a protected or a species that is prohibited from being kept in Florida, like if it's a reptile or an amphibian, I can capture them, including native stuff, and sell them at like a wholesale, level. It's basically a commercial fishing license, but for animal stuff. I don't do that really with the native stuff. I leave the native stuff alone, but I legally could. Anyway, I got these guys, and they were like, no, we don't have our boss isn't in, blah, blah, blah. Not a big deal. I didn't think anything about it. But it's a small town, and one of my wife's friends went to that same pet store, and I had given them one of these chameleons. And they're taking very good care of it. They got, a nice screened, ventilated enclosure. Like, they set it up nice. This chameleon, if you sent a picture into one of those DIY Facebook groups, they'd be like, that looks really good. They did a really good job with the enclosure. The kid really loves his animal, and he takes care of it very well. With that being said, she goes in and she's like, yeah, we got a chameleon. And the person's like, you wouldn't have happened to have got it from this guy, would you? And she basically said, yeah, he came in. I just think that's terrible. She asked her why. She goes, taking them out of the environment and putting them in a cage is terrible. And, there wasn't anything else really involved, but that was the sentiment. And I'm sitting here thinking about this. This girl works at a pet store, okay? Not even like a nice pet store. This is one of those pet stores you walk in and you can smell it immediately. The hamsters got poop in the corner because they don't clean out the tanks, and, they keep the hamsters in glass tanks and that sort of thing. And just not a nice pet store. And this girl who works there is judging me for capturing non-native animals out of the wild of Florida and getting them out of the environment. Where do you think all your animals come from for the most part is my big first question. Because everybody who thinks that they go into a pet store and buys a pet from there, they automatically think that every single one of those animals was a bred in captivity animal. And for some species, that's true. Ball pythons, especially like morphs of ball pythons, like specialty things. Yeah, those are going to be from breeders. But most of the time, if you go to a pet store, especially an exotic or reptile, or even like these big brand stores, most of those animals that aren't like special colors or anything like that, 99% of the time, those are wild caught or farm raised animals. It's like no different than getting a puppy mill puppy. No different. Okay? They're not a specialty breeder. They gotta sell things in bulk. Okay? They're mass producing these animals. You're not better than me just because you think that you're getting it from a breeder. And I wouldn't even argue that they're necessarily bad. But the inconsistencies of people who are in the animal keeping world, you can argue with me all you want about racks. That's fine. Some species, it can be okay, like ball pythons to an extent. Okay, I can get the argument. They live in holes most of the time. They come out. They're known to climb trees. They're known to move around and do stuff. Okay, but I can get the argument. Most of the time, they'd rather be in a tight, cramped space and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. I'll give you that. But the hoops that people will jump through to say that that is okay 100%, but capturing non-native animals out of the environment and selling them to people for pets is bad. Going from that point of view. You know what they do to iguanas right now to remove them? They shoot them with pellet guns or blow darts, make YouTube videos about it. That's what they do. Nobody's capturing them and selling them. They're either there, wreaking havoc on the environment, or they're being killed. What would you rather have happen to these chameleons, as an example? Because that's the one, people are, mostly talking to me about right now. What would you rather have me do? Would you rather me capture them and just kill them? You want all these animals to die? It's not their fault that they're there. Yeah, you can make that argument. How is just killing them, just straight up killing them, ethical? I don't understand that. I don't understand. There's no nuance to it. Where's the nuance? Look at it. What am I doing? These animals that are non-native or invasive, that are not supposed to be in that environment, that are competing with native animals, I am capturing them and taking them out of that environment. No, I am not farming them. I did not start these spots. These spots are there. I'm not exactly going to tell everybody where it is because, yeah, I do make money on it. Absolutely. I am funding myself to go out there and do this every week. After this video is done and edited, by the time you're watching this, most likely, I will be down in South Florida doing the same thing. I do it every week. Hundreds of non-native and invasive species every single week out of the environment. Just myself and my buddy. Hundreds. Nightingales, tokays, day geckos. Oh, but day geckos are cute. So you don't want to mess with those, even though they're not supposed to be here. The inconsistencies of people. Okay, people who strictly do breeding and animal-related stuff, like they're keepers, getting pissy with me because I'm going out and actually doing something rather than just buying and doing the whole internal trading. But just because the animal never knew what it was like outside of that vision rack that you have it in, that makes it okay. There's no consistency. See, here, a lot of these people have issues with factory farming, which I do too. You put a chicken inside a little cage, and that's the whole life it lives. It's fed, it's got water, it craps out some eggs. You're doing the same thing with ball pythons or leopard geckos, or you're mass producing these animals. The exact same thing as a factory farmer. You can make that argument one way or another. I don't care as much as you might think I do. I know I'm talking about it. The only reason I'm talking about it is because I've been called out, so to speak. And called out isn't even the right word for it. I've just had a lot of comments of people who have either no idea what they're talking about or are just like, you're a terrible person for taking them out of the environment. They're not native. Every single day you hear, if it was a Burmese python, kill it, kill it, kill it. But because it's a veiled chameleon that you don't hear about as much as you would the Burmese, you're going to sit here and justify keeping it out there? No. I am 100% legal. I am in my right to do this. And not just me, but a few other people, we're actually doing something to try to clean up the environment here in Florida. You hear about a new invasive species or non-native species every single day, basically. Go up there. Look how many articles came out this year. The new invaders of Florida. Yeah, these articles are everywhere. Guess who's out there every week actually being involved in seeing this stuff? I've seen stuff that you guys have no idea about, and I'm trying to get better at capturing that. But some of it's blown out of proportion. Some of it, the animals aren't anywhere near as bad as people make them out to be. Others only live in urban environments, and they're not taking over the Everglades. They're just in the middle of the city. What, there's native animals there in the middle of the city that they're out competing? What are you talking about? Some of them are in agricultural areas. Those areas are already destroyed as it is. There's so much of it that you hear about, that most of the time you focus on the Everglades and Burmese pythons, which I can't do anything legally with. Otherwise, I would be. If I could do something legally with iguanas, I'd be taking 1,000 out of the environment every single week instead of, having people just show up and shoot them with pellet guns. I did see a comment, something about cats. Oh, would you be doing this with cats? Yeah, if I legally could, I would be taking them out of the environment. But I can't do anything with it. It doesn't fall under FWC jurisdiction. Cats are like you have to go through like the Department of Agriculture or something like that. It's listed as a domesticated animal, and it's a whole different legal process. But you wouldn't know that unless you're actually involved in any of this stuff, which 90% of you guys aren't, which isn't necessarily your fault. We live our lives, we do our things, but people who are just looking at it from the outside in have no idea what they're talking about and just immediately go, you're evil for taking it out of the environment. And then the people who are somewhat involved get on their high horse and be like, how dare you take that chameleon that's only known freedom and take him out of the environment and put him in a cage. I bet you're making money off of it. Yeah, I am making money off of it. I'm supporting myself so I can go out next week and get another 100. So I can take them out. There are so many animals. Cuban tree frogs are starting to become a big thing that people are taking out. Have you ever captured 200 to 300 Cuban tree frogs in one night and have been afraid to touch your face at all because they piss all over you, and their piss has a bunch of chemicals in them that if you touch your face, it feels like anvils are crushing your nose. It's crazy. Hundreds of them just in one spot, just literally under a bridge going, putting them into big pop-ups, soaking the pop-ups so that they don't dry out. These are animals too. I'm not treating them inhumanely. I take them to your favorite pet stores. I guarantee you that if you have a veiled chameleon that you bought from a pet store, 99% of the time, that veiled chameleon came from a wholesaler. And you know where the wholesaler got their chameleon? People like me. If you have a veiled chameleon, unless it was specifically from a breeder that you know, it came from the wild, most likely in Florida. It's as simple as that. But you don't know that. You think that because you bought it from a pet store, that it's fine. No, it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. A lot of these animals are like this. You're not going to convince some people. That's fine. Last thing, I'll make a mention of Tom Crutchfield. There's a lot of people who were, defensive of me talking about him at all. I wasn't necessarily trashing him. I don't think he necessarily deserves to be trashed. My whole point was that a lot of stuff is going to come to light in this next documentary that's coming up. And just like with Tiger King, and it's the same guy who made Tiger King is making this reptile documentary, and Tom Crutchfield is going to be the main character. You're telling me that we're not going to find out stuff that's messed up that Tom has done? That's my point. He does a really good job of taking care of his animals, and he advocates for that now. People change. I absolutely think that out of most of the people who keep animals, Tom does a very good job. But he did some messed up stuff, and he's part of the reason that a lot of the stuff bad in the reptile industry that happens is happening now. He was instrumental in starting that. That was what I was saying. Not that he's a bad person. There's nuance to everything. And we get people who are just straight up bootlickers like, how dare you say anything bad about Tom? His wife's blah, blah, blah. I never said anything bad about him or his wife in that way. I hope she gets better. Okay, I'm friends with him on Facebook. I see this stuff. I'm not talking or following him, whatever. I see his posts on Facebook. I understand what's going on. All of that being said, I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know down below what you think. If you think I'm wrong, that's fine. Tell me. I enjoy listening to your comments, or reading your comments, I should say. But if you think you're better than me because you buy your pet from a pet store or a breeder, I'm just letting you know. You have no idea what you're talking about. That's basically what it comes down to. You don't understand where all this stuff comes from. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.